Hello. That probably doesn't look like it, but I had a shower about half an hour ago. That just shows it's still slightly damp, the hair. It just shows how warm it is here, and this weekend in this part of Portugal it is set to be in the mid-40s, maybe even higher. That'll be fun. I think I should just stand under the shower for 2 hours at a time and get a suntan, because it's a sort of open-topped shower. So it's lovely to get a suntan and solar heated water. So I thought I'd just reflect on a few things, explain where I've been for the last week, explain my absence as it were. I've actually been fully immersed. It's all stemmed from having no internet connection and then being lent a few books on Beethoven, reading them, and it occurred to me there's certain pieces of music I've read about and I don't recall hearing them. Maybe I've heard a few things on the radio and such like, and so some of it has been revisiting old friends, as it were. In terms of music, some of it has been a beautiful discovery of new things. Some of it I find quite mind-blowing, considering some of the pieces were written when Beethoven was, say, 11 years old or 15 years old, or these two wonderful cantatas that were written when he was 19 years of age. He had quite a short life of 56 years. Quintessentially the sort of suffering artist, but it's also a beautiful story in when things seemed dire, that something would always come along at the right time, and my life actually does echo that. So I've been in this sort of flow state, and in some ways I've sort of gone full circle to things probably from 3 decades, possibly longer. So I've got this vision I'm creating, and the naysayers will say that's impossible. Well, impossible is a conflation of I am possible. Well, I'm here, aren't I? It's not impossible, it's more improbable. I don't know if anybody else has this lifestyle that I have, but it comes with its challenges, mostly to do with the material. But it is overcoming those negative thoughts that we hold of what if this doesn't happen, or what if that does happen, and also not having a clear vision of, okay, we know what we don't want, but what is it that we really do want? That actually seems like a simple question, but if you really go within yourself and ask that, you'll find that it might not be quite that easy to answer. I'm not talking about necessarily material wealth here, but obviously in this experience that does involve physical, then it would be good to improve our circumstances. But so I hope that if you follow this channel that you will continue to do so, because it's just a feeling. And this is the key thing to everything, feeling. There's a saying that we are our own worst enemies. Well, consider it this way. If you have negative feelings, just consider what that is doing to the chemistry within every cell of your body. You'll find, if you look at the external world, that it does reflect back the answers, and it does reflect exactly the same way as a mirror. So if you stand in front of a mirror, you're looking at that reflection. As you move to the left, it moves to the right. So there's a switch of polarity. So when you look at the mirror, that is everything external of you, you'll find there's always an ongoing story of conflicts and disagreements, and it's like, well, These are enacted because people have picked a side. But if you look at what the material realm shows to you, just consider the countries that are considered to be neutral. Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Monaco, Luxembourg, and many others that don't come to mind at the moment. But suffice to say that in the material sense, because they are neutral, they are prosperous. They have material wealth. So there's a lovely reflection of turn it inward. Because there's another story that goes on about a certain area of the world where there's always a medal with the E's. So if you want to bring about peace, it starts with oneself by bringing to the gut feeling inside yourself, the thoughts that we transmit that then are transmitted into the body. We bring about a peace in our middle, the middle ease of ourselves. Now we are actually very much like receivers and transmitters, like a radio, in that we will take things in and then things will radiate out from us at an energetic level. You have in this reality a thing called controlled medium or a controlled opposition. And it's by design. You'll see things in this AD calendar certainly do not seem to add up. And there's often a saying, oh, it's all right for some. There's a huge clue in that, because it's all right for some can be said as just an acknowledgement, oh, they're doing okay out of this, or it can be said with a certain amount of resentment and jealousy of it. But consider the sum. Well, who is doing all the sums, and why don't things add up? They don't add up because they're not meant to. We are in a technological age. So it's not now with nature. What is actually happening is a repeat story. It is a flood. It is a flood of information. Can I prove this? Quite easily. Just go to the home screen of, say, YouTube, and then look at things that come up that says recommended for you. Things to get you to keep watching. To keep looking external of yourself, which can be useful. I'm not saying it's all bad, because certainly there was a time, especially in classical music, where there'd be some quite obscure pieces of music, half-finished concertos or sonatas or something, that were never recorded, but now, whether it's done for the right or wrong reasons, you can pretty much find any piece of music through YouTube. Okay, you may have to endure adverts. It's just a shame that they're not set so they don't cut across and break the continuity of a piece of music. Obviously, if you pay, then you can have the adverts removed, or you can find hopefully alternative recordings. It just depends what you put in on a search. Seek and you shall find. It depends what you're looking for. Are you looking at all the negatives? Because you'll have a section that comes up on the home screen called breaking news. But one of the things, by immersing yourself into this, where you're deaf to the outside world, as it were, you've no idea what's going on out there. And visually and audibly, there is nothing to back up these stories, but until I see them on breaking news, and invariably they're like 3-4 minute little things of this politician has said this or that has happened, and they all follow suit. And there's an invitation of a script to pick a side. But you can pick a side by staying neutral. You have a thing called controlled opposition. But what about doing the mirror process with that? What about not controlled opposition, but opposition controlled. Because you may have certain feelings towards a particular thing, and you may root for one side more than another, but don't go... Think of it like the abacus with the beads. Abacus. You could get out of that. You want to keep the beads in the middle of each of these lines. Stay neutral to it all. Because what can, as an individual, what can you do in a physical sense to change anything? And even if you do, by some unlikely chance, have any sort of success, would the rest of the world even know about it? Because it is quite clear that you have a medium called media, which is offering you a pick-a-side script. But you can do something about it by starting with oneself. And it has a magnificent effect, and I can testify to this, that from the experience of going through this, by changing how you feel and interact with the outside world, what you'll actually find is the actual background scene doesn't change whatsoever. You can walk down the same road, the same buildings are there, the same trees are there, and so on. Nothing's changed, except the living beings that you will encounter. You'll encounter total strangers that may just smile or say hello, that you've never seen before. That in itself is uplifting in a small way. And hopefully that is generative, that you will reciprocate, and both of you will now benefit, because then the next person you encounter will be a friendly greeting as well, and something uplifting. This is a war of the spirit, not of the flesh. I'm sure it's a biblical quote as much as anything else, as much as it is a quote on such as YouTube and such like. And it's very true. There's only one way. I can't show you this. I can give you testimony to it from personal experience of it. But it really does come down to you as an individual to reevaluate, to go within oneself, and it's like, why am I triggered by this? Have I really got any chance of changing anything physically by doing physical actions, taking part in protests or marches or things? Is that going to change how you feel inside yourself? Okay, with marches and things, you may get a certain uplifting feeling in numbers of camaraderie. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but also bear in mind we're in a technological age, and there's such things as facial recognition, and it's always about attaching a face to a name in this reality. So you've got to weigh all these things up, and look at the sign, the zodiac sign Libra. It is shown generally as a female with a band over the eyes, so it's not with the physical sight. It is in the feeling, it's the weighing up of things. So it's suggesting to take the scales inside yourself, as it were, and weigh things up inside yourself. So I hope this has sort of uplifted and inspired. There are so many labels and terms. I'll save this over to the next video, so this is not too long. Things like controlled opposition, alien invasion, and such like. But they're always compartmentalized. So as soon as I've said those very well-known phrases, it's pretty safe to say how most people will get this instant picture because they're repeated things. But there's always more than one meaning to these sort of things. So an alien invasion really is anything that's invasive to the body that is not natural. That's an alien invasion. Actually, I will just very briefly go over a couple of these things. So there's always talk of a new world order. Well, I would have thought, if you go back 5 years and see how pretty much 99% of nations around the world all followed suit and did exactly the same thing. The one exception, of course, was Sweden. But you'll always have something that breaks the pattern, as it were, just to see what the outcome would be if we do it a different way. It is a diagnostic zone. It is one huge, massive experiment. You'll also get a repeated theme of things like earthquakes. And consistently you'll always find there's a story of, against all odds, there are survivors pulled from the rubble. They've had their discomfort zone for maybe 48 hours, but against all odds, they've achieved the impossible. They have survived. No matter what story is put out there about what is going to happen or what may happen, there are always survivors. I would say that comes down to what we radiate out from ourselves. See, even that's been flipped into being selfish. But oxygen mask on self first, so you can be of service to others, surely. That is reflected on every sort of rundown when you get onto a civil flight on a plane. They always go through this drill of oxygen masks on self, and then you can help your co-passengers, as it were. Otherwise, you're of no help to them if you're no longer taking in oxygen. It's a necessary thing for the physical body. The thing is to not get stressed up over all of these things. Don't cause unnecessary tension, because just consider what that is doing to the chemistry of your physical body. How it can, well, I feel you already know those uncomfortable feelings. It's learning to master them and sit with them, but also don't fuel yourself with them, because that's where it is we are of our own worst enemy, because we've had all these negative thoughts which now go into the body, and you wonder why you're getting stomach upsets and things like that. It's something Beethoven suffered from throughout his life. I wish I could turn the clock back or jump time zones and say, look, Ludwig, I can really help you here. But of course that would be meddling with time. And some of the great works that he produced, and he may not have produced, he may have gone on a different trajectory had I've been able to do that. So, can't change the past, don't want to change the past. We're a presence in the present. So do we present ourselves as a present to everybody else? Look how you've got so many interpretations of that one sound of presence. Just in that one sentence. Isn't it amazing? Anyway, we're going to end here, but just on a final note, as a reminder, it helps me put food on the table. It helps me feed the cats. And I'm not saying this to guilt trip. I'm saying this in total honesty. I'm showing a vulnerable side that every few weeks, it's like, where's the next income coming from? I do solely rely on donations, or if anybody would like a tarot card reading, or Reiki healing, or counselling, or the DAPA courses, helping you to overcome these negative feelings, how you can turn things around for yourself. You can see evidence of this physically. You get a cut. How quick does it heal? How much conscious thought have you actually put into the healing, or has the body just gone on done its own thing, and you haven't actually had to get involved in it? This is actually a wonderful experience, this physical reality, and but it does come with contrast. It does come with a mirror. So there will be things that you won't find agreeable. There will be things that look uncomfortable, that will try and dis-ease you. But it comes down to perception, and it comes down to creating a stable foundation within oneself. That is reflected externally. Putting up a building, you need a solid foundation. It needs to be upright, it needs to be in balance, excluding, of course, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, but that's had counterbalances to try and pull it back, or not pull it back, but to stop it falling. So things are being kept in balance, even if they're off. But look what that reflects about this material realm and all that that sort of stands for, with the stories and things that are attached to it. Another good example of this, just to end on a final note, is St. Paul's Cathedral. The story goes, built by Christopher Wren, but if you start playing with the name Christopher Wren, you can start to hear Christ offering. But what I too take from that story is when he was asked, "Where is your monument?" and he said, "Look around you." It's not about putting up physical phallic symbols and things and dotting them around the world, various needles to needle people and such like, and all the symbology that goes with that. It is about being upright inside oneself, not swayed and leaning too far one way or the other so you capsize. You don't want to list too far. It's creating that sort of mill pond. Okay, if you want to introduce a little bit of waves and things and make it a bit more of a, jazz it up a little bit, well, you can do that as well. You can have fun with all these things. Anyway, I said I was going to stop and I still carried on talking, but I just wanted to sort of say I'm back, but I'm still going through this sort of revisiting Beethoven, and it's far better than looking at some of these stories that are all external, but just see them all as long-running soap operas, really, because that is all they are. It's said that a photograph never lies. Well, the same can be said about a piece of film footage, but the caption that goes with it can make all the difference. And it's an interpretation of what is being shown. Keep that in mind with everything. Weigh all these things up inside yourself. So with that, I'm going to say, as always, unconditional love to you all.